this lead me to say, all of the burning and bombing that was done to us and the houses, nobody never said too much about that, and nothing was done. But let something be burned, by a black man, and then, my God, you see, the flag is drenched with our blood. Because, you see, so many of our ancestors was killed because we have never accepted slavery. We had to live on it, but we've never wanted it. So we know that this flag is drenched with our blood. So what the young people are saying now, give us a chance to be young men, respected as a man, as we know this country was built on the black backs of black people across this country. And if we don't have it, you ain't gonna have it either, because we gonna tear it up. That's what they saying. And people ought to understand that. I don't see why they don't understand that. They know what they've done to us. All across this country, they know what they've done to us.
In the book of Jeremiah, Hosea, and Proverbs, and all throughout the scriptures really, but those three books in particular, God talks about how he feels about oppression, about justice, about defending those that cannot defend themselves. And more specifically, those people in those communities would be the widows and those that are fatherless. We know from statistics that the black community is, well, at least 70% of the ADOS community, American Descendants of Slavery. We come from single-parent households, and most of those single-parent households are single mothers. And in the scriptures it says a few things that call down God's wrath. One of them is idolatry. We know that off the bat. We know that when Baal and Molech were worshipped alongside Yahweh or in place of him, Israel was destroyed. They were sent into captivity. It's what the entire book of Judges is about. It's what the prophets were all about. Not so much just prophecy, but it's also a narrative of what Israel, our people, if you believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, you are Israel. Not just believe in him, but follow his word, follow his Torah. Then you are Israel, and that is the story of us. But one thing that the scriptures do say consistently is that if the most vulnerable people in your communities, the poor, the widows, and the fatherless, when they are the ones that have to stand up for themselves and start crying out for justice and start calling to God for there to be a defender for them, time and time again we get destroyed for it. Oh, excuse me. I'm out here on the bike trail and I'm sweating and it's hot, but I felt the need to say something. I know I've been silent on Berean Talk for a while. I'm going to be honest, I've been battling past kind of couple of months because I wasn't sure if I should be doing this anymore. And today I prayed, fasted, and when it comes to what everybody's talking about right now, George Floyd, and even more so than that, the Breonna Taylors, the Ahmaud Arbery's, the Tatiana Jeffersons, and so many other names, I wanted to say something specifically about each of those individuals created in the image of God. I wanted to say something about each of them every time, the next hashtag came out. And something in me told me to be quiet. And I'm now realizing it was, and I feel confident saying this, that it was the Spirit of God kind of telling me to be quiet and just watch. not just watch how black people are being treated in America, and not just watch white people in America, but to watch God's people, to watch how they react, to watch what sparks commentary, to watch what sparks anger or righteous indignation or so-called righteous indignation, to see what sparks sadness, to see what sparks a cry for justice. And as I watched, I saw some very disturbing things, and I continue to see these things. And today's video is going to be talking about selective forgiveness. Now, most of you all know, a few years back, I want to say it was about 2016, an NFL quarterback, starting NFL quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, who, used to be one of my favorite teams in the NFL. They are no longer because of the way that they treated this guy. Although I have a soft spot in my heart for them because my dad's from the West Coast, so there's like a nepotism thing going on. I don't know. But nonetheless, this man, Colin Kaepernick, quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, during a scrimmage game, mind you, this is at least the first time I heard of it, took a knee during the national anthem. Later came out that he was taking a knee during the national anthem to protest police brutality. Now, actually, that's not even entirely true, because what he did first was he sat down during the national anthem to protest police brutality. It was later then said that he got in contact with a former U.S. Marine who told him, you're right, there is police brutality, but sitting down, I don't believe, is the most respectful thing to do. Why don't you take a knee? And so Kaepernick now takes the infamous knee during the national anthem to protest police brutality. Now, I'm going to go get a little bit of a flashback before I get to my point. Today, hopefully, I'm not going to make too long of a video, but I have some things that have been laid on my heart that need to come out, and so I need to frame a couple of things for you. And so, I remember when I first heard about this, I wasn't even watching football anymore, really. I hadn't watched football at that point for maybe a year or two. I hadn't really been keeping up with it. But I got a text from a friend, and he asked me, hey, have you heard about what happened with Kaepernick? And I said, no. What happened? And he said, dude, he sat down or took a knee during the national anthem. Now, as I've gotten older, I've become more conscious about different things in the United States, or quote-unquote woke. No, it's a new hot button issue, or not hot button issue, but it's a new cool wave, to be woke. And I don't respect people that are woke, honestly, because all it means is that, you just know a lot about things that are quote-unquote hidden. You're like a social justice conspiracy theorist. And so anyways, he says, asked me if I knew about it. I said no. I said, oh, okay. And he said, yeah, he took a knee during the national anthem. I said, okay. And then he said, dude, are you not upset? Or something to the extent of, he's confused that I'm not outraged with him. And again, this friend of mine, his father at that point was currently in the military, or had just recently retired from the military. So I understand the patriotism aspect here. And he says this to me, and my response was, at 16 years old, okay, doesn't he have a right to do that? Not entirely understanding what was going on. And when I'm finding this out, he doesn't tell me that it's about police brutality. I just know that Kaepernick took a knee. I don't know what it's for. I just know that I've been raised to know the Constitution, to know my rights. I've been raised that way since, as far back as I can remember. The Constitution has been a huge staple in my life. The Bible, the Constitution, and writings by different scholars and theologians, so on and so forth. And so that was 2016. And as I'm getting older, I'm having different experiences. I'm having my eyes open to some different things. And then I started, college around fall 2016. So I was about 16. I started a little bit early. And this is important. Now, I started college just taking basic classes. That was it. And on social media, I started posting more things about how wrong certain things were that were happening to black people. And this same friend later then sends me a message, and it's public, so I might even let you guys read it. I might put it next to the video, I'm not sure. And basically, actually, I won't post that. It's no need. But if you would like to see it, I would definitely show you guys. But in his comment, he basically says, well, hey, dude, we were both raised conservative, which technically I was. Why is it that you're becoming all liberal all of a sudden? Which was an extreme insult to me. Because it looks like, to him, I went to college, became liberal, and now I'm on this whole Black Lives Matter stint. And that's not what happened. For my entire life, I've had to live in two Americas. One is that of white America, the America that anybody can make it, the America where the American dream actually means something, the America that if you're an immigrant or anyone from another country who's hit rock bottom, that you can come over here, make a new life for yourself, and you can make it. And the other America I was raised in was the real America. The America where I understood that we're not all equal. We should be, but we're not treated that way. I was also having to understand the other America in the reality of what America was, meaning the America where we were built off of oppression, the America where we were built off of theft, genocide, and extortion. And understanding not that that's where we came from, but also understanding that that's what my heritage is. My mother is a lighter skinned woman than I am, or anybody else in my immediate family, including my younger brother and my father. And at the age of 6, I had to understand what rape was so I could understand where women of my mother's complexion came from. I had to understand my entire life that although my vanilla cohorts or peers acted a certain way, in reality I wasn't afforded those types of graces. What does this have to do with anything? Another story before I get to the point. I had another friend recently say, or ask me, why is it that, you seem so conservative and you went to college and you started becoming liberal? Again, nothing could be further from the truth. My quote-unquote wokeness, as people have framed it, had nothing to do with college. I learned nothing about black history necessarily in college that wasn't anything I didn't already know. The reason I am the way that I am right now was because I was raised in two Americas. The reason I am the way that I am is because I read my Bible. The reason I have so much righteous indignation about these types of injustices and things is because I study history, not just the whitewashed American history of just the Puritans that came over here looking for religious freedom. but I also studied the real history of what America really is. And I don't have to tell, as people would like to say, defamate the history of America in order to make a point about there being oppression today. Just read a book. And in previous videos, I've mentioned books that you all can read just to kind of help with the level of ignorance and arrogance that I've been seeing. I've said to read New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. I've said to read Slavery by Another Name. I've said to read The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein. I've mentioned to read Restoring Hope by Cornel West. And there's even more books like Medical Apartheid. Another one that I'm going through right now is They Were Her Property, which kind of goes into detail the slave narratives of the type of violence that went into building the richest nation in the world, as well as Slavery by Another Name. Those are both really good books to kind of give you a pretty good picture of what needed to happen in order for America to be a reality. So what is the point? What am I trying to say here? So back to the thing with Kaepernick, a lot of people were very upset. People are still very upset. He's disrespectful to the flag, disrespectful to our country, disrespectful to our soldiers, disrespectful to our men in blue. That's what everybody was so upset about with the flag. Then also posting the statistics about, more white people are killed by police officers than black people, and that it's more likely for a police officer to be killed by a black person than it is for a police officer to kill a black person. It's also been said that black people commit most of the murders in the United States. And more recently with the murder, I'm not going to say killing, because it was a murder, of George Floyd, but also the murder of Ahmaud Arbery. And we've even seen commentary from attorneys. Shout out to Ben Shapiro, who actually did an excellent analysis of the situation with Ahmaud Arbery. And I'd love to do some more commentary about that one in particular, but that'll kind of stray away from the point. With those shootings, and many more like them before and soon to come, because if you know your history, you know exactly what's about to happen. It is very interesting to me, again, how I've been saying I've been being quiet, but I've been paying attention to a lot. Believers have, when it's very obvious that a police officer is wrong, of course you have to say, yes, that was wrong. Yes, that was murder. But it's interesting that you focus more on the protests, more on the looting, more on the riots than you do what caused them. It's an insult to me as a black man to, number one, think that you think that black people are so fragile as to be that riled up by one instance. It is an insult to me that you think that we're just synonymous with violence as a way of protesting or getting our message across. And it's an insult to me that we have to basically be flawless before white America, and I'm being very specific, white evangelical America, because these are the believers that I'm speaking to. And even some black people that have taken the stance of defending the wicked, as the scriptures would put it, which is an abomination before God. And I'm not taking that scripture out of context. With those things, with those actions of saying that we must, focus on the riots and look at those equally as well as the shooting. And white people do this all the time. And it's called the politics of respectability. Now, politics of respectability, if I can break that down for you for a second, means that before I can treat you as the human being that God created you, before I treat you like you have any value, you need to prove to me that you're worth it. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Antichrist. Not wrong, not mean, not unfair, but that is Antichrist. That someone has to prove their worth to you before you make sure that they're treated with justice and equity. I've seen many people say that, they're posting scriptures about, forgive and forget, or not even forget, but, forgiveness and walk upright and walk humbly and, just forgive. That's Antichrist in the context of telling someone who is oppressed, telling someone who's getting their neck crushed, some cases quite literally, that they need to forgive. That's not your place to say that. And you're out of line. Your job is to stand up for the fatherless, for the widows, for the orphans, for the oppressed, and to take up their cause and to fight for them. As the clip that I used before, are you sure that people that are oppressed don't hate God, don't hate Yeshua because of you? And when we do things like that, the politics of respectability, we are, for lack of a better term, a piss poor example of who Yahweh is. Sorry if that language offends you, but that's what that is. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to try and be more regular on here. But also, when it comes to this stuff, I'm not going to be quiet anymore. I haven't really been, but I'm going to make a lot of people uncomfortable. And I don't like making people uncomfortable for the sake of controversy, because even that is cowardice, the sense of somebody delighting in some sort of division. I don't care whether or not it's divisive or not. I'm standing up for what is right. So enough of talking about people with the riots, enough of talking about people with disrespecting the flag. Oh, and by the way, I want you guys all to notice something. If we're going to use the Bible as our final standard. Number one, if the Bible is something that we kind of draw everything from, I noticed something very interesting. Number one, it seems to me that for whatever reason, number one, Colin Kaepernick is not in the NFL anymore. And people still talk about, gossip about, and slander that man continuously. I'm talking about believers, because that's mainly the circle that I've been around or even see on my social media. And these believers, I've seen call this dude every name under the sun. A lot of you reposted the president referring to these NFL players as SOBs. Seen some people that I went to Sukkot with referring to this man as a bastard because you're upset about the flag. Why don't you take a page out of your own book and forgive? And you won't, because this whole message of forgiveness, for you, it's not about forgiveness. It's about being relinquished of the guilt that you feel for being on the wrong side. It's about justifying your stance. It has nothing to do with forgiveness. Because if it was about forgiveness, then we would work on that. And the scriptures say that people that hold unforgiveness in their hearts, their prayers are an abomination. So for those of you that cannot even forgive a guy that you don't even know for doing something that really doesn't affect your life other than make you upset. And in reality, I think it's something more than that. Your prayers are an abomination. And one more thing to add as I close. There are two examples that I can think of where Israel or a group of people get upset because an image was not honored. The first one I can think of is in the book of Daniel when the three Hebrew boys, Ananiah, Azariah, and Mishael, did not worship the image that the king had put up. And they were sentenced to death. The second time, which I think is much more relevant, was when Gideon destroys the poles of Ashtoreth and the altars to Baal, and Israel got upset. Not the Hittites, not the Ammonites, not the Canaanites, not the Philistines, but Israel got upset. So this standing up for a symbol of oppression, because that's what this flag is, doesn't matter what it means to you. I understand that a lot of you are patriotic and you want to stand up for what is right, and that's good. And the Father, I believe, honors that. But what he doesn't honor is idolatry. What he doesn't honor, and what will cause swift, quick, and immensely destructive judgment, is being an oppressor, or being a supporter of an oppressor. That's all I got to say. Read your Bible. Do some history. Everybody says, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it. Many of you don't know the racial history of the United States. And it shows. Pieces and blessings. I'm out.